Hey everybody, my next guest is a hilarious comedian who could be seen performing all over the tri-state area. You can catch him on his podcast, Davin's Den, and he's also a regular on the Anthony Cumia Show. Here he is, folks, the one and only Joe Currie. Joe, how's it going, bud?
Hey, how's it going, buddy? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, it's always great to see you. And I just saw you a couple weeks ago at with Adam Ferrara over there at
Yes.
Governors. That was really cool,
Yeah, it was a
and
good time. Good night. Good time. He was in the main room. I was in the giggle room, and it was just I tell you the atmosphere. It's a club. When people say, "Well, it's a club," it's such a it's a club. It's the club. You're there to see
right
your
on.
friends. You're here to hang out. You're there to go up. So it's James has got such a great atmosphere going on there. It's just such a good time.
It really is, and what James and what the Governor's team has done is really, help propel the comedy scene. I feel like it's back to like the old days, how it was like when you hear, stories of you the comedy scene, the local Long Island comedy scene in its heyday back in the day
Right.
when you had like Jack and the Joke Man and Joey Cola, Bob Nelson, all these guys. It feels like we're kind of it's happening again.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of I call those guys the elders because when I started 24 years ago, and
Nice.
those were the guys that you looked at and go, God, I love to be like them. I want to be like them. I'm going to work as hard to be at that level. So it's kind of good that we're fostering a environment that that's creating that atmosphere, and that even that even guys like Joey Cola, because Joey wanted to a lot of the new comics really don't know how to go about things. And
Right.
Joey wound up having a seminar to teach them. And I have a friend, and I told her that she needs to go to this seminar because she's been doing it, I guess, 5 years or whatever. But I go, this is the guy that taught me. And I
Right, right,
go,
yeah,
it would be very cool if the person that taught me would teach you,
right.
just what to do to be a comic and, the steps you need to get to where you need to go.
It's so cool, like you said, to have guys like Joey and even like yourself who are kind of passing it down, like the knowledge of the stand-up game and how to, just there's so many intricacies within. So it's like the game within the game. And
And
you know,
absolutely. And sometimes you feel like you kind of owe it. I was at a party and Rob Bartlett was there. And this party was about, oh God, it was Anthony's house about 5 years ago. And Rob was there. And I told Rob the story of at Top of the Town. And I'm going back over 20 years ago, Top of the Town. Adam just started. I didn't start yet. And Anthony was years away from, getting on the radio. But Rob took the three of us and showed us things and talked to us about things. So I saw Rob that night at the party. I said, Rob, I'll never forget that night. And I go, I passed that on because you took the time that night to pass it on to us. So I always felt an obligation to pass that on to the next generation that was coming up.
yeah, that's awesome, and that's the priceless stuff, and and that's from being a new guy to now 20 4 years into the business, now you're the elder passing it down. It's like it's got to be a cool kind of circle of
It's
life type of
Well,
thing.
I tell you, it is. I owe it, and I'll tell you why. My dad died. He actually, fortunately, committed suicide,
Oh,
and I was
very
one of the
sorry.
last ones to see. Yeah, thanks. And I was one of the last ones to see him, and I was a lonely kid. I was scared, and it was going on. And then I discovered George Carlin takeoffs and put-ons, and it showed. It was like a beam of light. Cheech and Chong, who I got to thank for them being there when I was a kid. So no matter where I've gone, wherever where I'm going doing this, I owe it because it saved my life. It really did. And just that I can do this and still do it and keep doing it, I owe it. So anytime, I can help a new guy or whatever, I'm more than happy to do it.
Yeah, man, right on. And you, for those who don't know, you, Adam Ferrara, and Anthony Cumia, kind of all were young kids working like a fence, doing
Yeah,
fencing or
what
something.
happened? What happened was how I met Anthony. 1977. Anthony's brother Joe was in California, and he comes. He shows up at Fourth of July party, and I get to know Joe. And Joe said, "I have my brother Anthony coming from California at the end of August. and he's going to start school. So I'm going to tell him to meet up with you. He doesn't know anybody. He's been in California for about 4 years, and hang out. So I hang out with Anthony for the first hour, and we're making jokes, we're cracking jokes. And I was talking to my other buddy Peter, who we used to do Monty Python bits. I go, this guy's one of us, and we would hang out. And then Anthony and I got to be very good best friends. 1985, I'm working at Wall Women Fence Company, and my buddy Joey goes, I got a guy tomorrow. His name is Adam. You and Adam are going to start you'll meet Adam tomorrow. I go, you guys are going to get along because you guys, you're funny guys. You like to do bits. Adam starts the next day, and all we did was write jokes and do everything. So
that's so awesome.
Donnie, I get back to Ant's apartment, and I go, listen, we're going to the OBI on Friday. There's a guy, Ant, you got to meet, Adam Ferrara. I go, he's one of us. So Anthony goes, we got all our friends. I go, you don't understand. He's one of us. And Anthony goes with me to OBI, and fast friends. Matter of fact, Adam was even dating Ant and Joe's sister for a little bit. So it's been one big happy family since years and years and years. And then Adam gets out of college and goes, I'm going to do comic. He sold telescopes when he got out of college, and he goes, look, I'm sick of he was selling telescopes. He goes, I'm sick and tired of selling telescopes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to my dad. I'm going to say, look, I'm done with school. I'm out. I want to do what I want to do. So he goes down to East Side Comedy. He gets a spot in the amateur show on Thursday. We all go down there to support him. He does great. And Richie Minervini takes an instant liking. Tom and Gegno from Omnipop are there. And he saw something in Adam, and then Adam was on his way. Wow. About 2 years later, I started. And then Anthony, I used to tell him, I go, Ant, come out to the club, hang out, meet guys. Because, I started with Gallo and Matt Burke and Paul Bond, Darren Dillon. And I'm like, there's these great group of guys. Come out to the club, right? I'm going to watch TV. He didn't want to leave the house. Right. So I know. And I'm leaving. I go, one of the most brilliant comedy minds is sitting here home. And it stunk. So then he wounds up, our band Rot Gut does a parody about OJ, hooks up with Opie, and Ant's off to the races. Right. But and for everything Ant's done, I always told him he should be doing stand-up. Never wanted to do stand-up. Well, with the Comedians of the Compound show, he's out there doing stand-up. And it was mind-blowing because for Anthony and I as musicians, we have done everything under the sun. We met Sammy Hagar. We drank with Lemmy. Our band played this. We won that. So as musicians, we've done everything under the sun. As comics, we never did things as comics before, up to about 4 years ago. And to go on stage after him, it meant so much to me because it's so cool doing that together. Yeah. So it's been a great friendship, and it's something that we both all three of us we love to do. And we still comment that we're still doing it. And, God forbid we'll be doing it for, God forbid, God willing, we'll be doing it for more. God forbid. Well, audiences say God forbid. But God willing, we'll be doing it for a lot longer.
Right on, man. And what I think is interesting about the three of you guys is, being friends and coming up together is that all three of you are very different in your comedy personas. Like Adam is clean and friendly and kind of reserved, has very family friendly vibes.
Yes.
Anthony's way more edgy, shocking, controversial. And you're like very philosophical and observational and, just your kind of take on the world. I think that's a pretty interesting mixture, to have, three guys that are so close, but yet the comedy instead of all you being like the same,
Sometimes it's weird on our take on comedy because one time we were watching Police Squad, which was the police, which was the movies, the Naked Gun. That was
with Les Nielsen. Yeah.
And before Naked Gun, there was the show based on that called Police Squad. We're over Anthony's apartment. And Anthony and I are major, major fans of the Zucker brothers. We think they're gods. And we are laughing our asses off at the episode. Adam's sitting there not even laughing. And I'm like, Adam, Rob, what are you doing? All right. I go, this is brilliant. What are you doing? So even though that we're friends, there are some comedic things where Anthony and we're more, National Lampoon guys and Zucker brothers guys, where even though, we love Adam and Adam's brilliant, his humor is a little more like priorish, you know.
Right, right. Yeah, no, I think that's great. Everybody, and that just shows that there's dynamics within the core of the three of you guys. It would be cool if you ever think to do a collaborative, or have you ever done a collaborative piece together, like a short film or a tour?
The closest the closest thing that we did, the closest thing that we did was our band was supposed to play this bar in Comac, and our drummer couldn't make it, so we didn't know what to do. So what we did was me, Adam, Anthony, and his brother Joe.
Yeah, good
We
guy.
put together a thing called the Lawn Mowers from Hell, and we did an improv show as the Lawn Mowers from Hell. We did about 20 minutes, and the guy that ran the bar paid us to stop. and I often goof around with the guys, with the other three, and I go, could you imagine if we? Do you know what the guy would have to pay now for that same show?
Right, exactly, exactly. You don't realize sometimes that you're witnessing history, and major players, when they're in the beginning phases.
Yeah, they didn't know. And the interesting thing about when because we all wanted to do it, we all talked about doing it. And when we all started doing, we figured we'd be like the Three Musketeers, or one for all. But it turns out when we all entered the business, it was kind of like everybody, like we'd help each other. I mean, those guys helped me immensely, but it was like every man for themselves, because the business is,
Right. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you do what you can. But we all had to make our own way, and I always wanted to do that because I always felt if I walked into a bar or a club with Adam or Ant, it's like, oh, it's Anthony Cumia and his friend Joe Currie, or it's Adam Ferrara and his friend Joe Currie. No, it's Adam Ferrara and Joe Currie, or Anthony Cumia and Joe Currie. I always wanted to stand on my own merits,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know. And I
Yeah.
always did, because a lot of times we would study, like with the Howard Stern show. We would study the Howard Stern show, Anthony and I, and we would watch the guys that around the show, what they would do right and what we would do wrong. And we always said, if anything ever happened, we wouldn't do this, or I wouldn't do that. And when it actually happened to Ant, I didn't want to be the glommy friend that came on with no act or whatever. And then,
Oh, right. Right. Yeah.
and what happened was when Anthony started busting Stuttering John's chops about stuff, Stuttering John comes after me, comes after Anthony, and I'm like, I go, dude, we read your book. You
Right.
can't. We studied you. We read your book. Don't try anything on us. We know what to do. We've studied this.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah. And one of the things too that was the whole thing with Howard Stern, and the battle that ensued with O&A and Howard. O&A, man, they almost got him. They almost took him down, but he, whatever happened there. But now when you see Howard Stern, and I think you could say, I know Anthony's admitted it, and like not admitted it, but he said it, that that Stern was very influential. That
Massive,
I think,
massively,
and
massively.
I think all of us, especially, I think all of us who ever listened to Howard Stern at our age group, right? But I also
Brilliant.
think, especially if you're a Long Island guy, and he's Howard's a Long Island dude, and you're like, whoa, man, this, um, what do you, to see what he's become now is it's very disappointing to me that I just wish he would have hung it up, or something. I don't like that like this, the Who, rather hope I die
Yeah.
before I get old type of thing.
Yeah, I always love that. Hope wish I died before I get old. Well, we kind of wish you did too.
Yeah. But what's your thought on that? Like when you see somebody like a Howard Stern, and it's happened to lots of these guys, like Jimmy Kimmel, whoever, that they're one person at one period of time, and then completely morph into this other
Oh,
persona.
what happened is that Howard wanted to be more accessible than he was as being a shock jock with America's Got Talent, and being on there, and that agent or manager kind of watered him down. Also, had him not have the guests on that he used to have. I think Gilbert was one of them. you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and it just watered down the show. I used to listen when I had satellite. I haven't had satellite, but from what I'm hearing, it's watered down. With that being said, he's a very good interviewer. And as a matter of fact, I was hanging out with Sal Governale one night, and
Right, yeah.
I go, Sal, is there a separate channel that he does interviews on? Because I think he's a great interviewer, but he's kind of been kind of hypocritical of the person that he was, and he kind of got rid of the core audience that that followed him. Regular guys, construction workers. I mean, I was I was a fence installer. Ant was a tin knocker. Adam worked with me putting up sheds. We were all blue collar guys, and we looked at that, and he got away from that. And with Anthony is not. He's really stuck to his convictions. But there have been a couple of guys and guests that haven't come on because they think Anthony's too on the fringe. But on Anthony's defense, he hasn't. He does not. He has not forgot who he is. The thing about it is, he knew back in the heyday of Opie and Anthony that he wanted to be a little bit more political. He wanted to go that route because he goes, "Who was going to look at a shock jock doing silly thing in the 55-gallon drum challenge? And I'm 60 years old doing this. I look like an idiot." So he goes, "I have to, yeah, I have to gear my career towards being more, conversational, more political, more topical," which he's done. He's done a great job with it. There have been some people that have steered guests away from there. Other comics, I'm not going to name them, that steered guests and said, "Do not go on there." It is, and one of his, a couple of people on the show have left maybe because they thought he was too on the fringe. But you want to know something? It's what he wants to do. He's passionate. If if you're not doing something that you're passionate about or you believe in, you're not going to give it your all because you're not all in. And Anthony is all in.
Yeah, for sure. And these are polarizing times. And to my point, like when you see Howard Stern going this way, like let's say he's going left, you're seeing Anthony really go right. And he's
Yeah,
like he's
yeah,
saying, "Hey man, I'm gonna go 100 miles per hour this direction, and you better hold on tight because I'm doing it no matter what." And
yeah.
yeah. And like you said, there I think for both sides, whichever direction you choose, you're risking fallout, you know?
Oh, I get that. Yeah, and I get that too. Sometimes I'll do stuff in my act. I mean, there's some stuff that I've backed off from. I might do it because I've done a bit on the word retard. How it's the context of the word. I've done jokes on faggot in the context of the word. I do a whole preamble on it. I'll do it if I'm doing an hour. I'll do it
Right.
in depending on the audience, but there's a whole preamble in there. And I stand behind the material. Some nights you don't want the fight, some nights you do. And I was working a club one night, and somebody came there and go, "Oh, I like what like what you're doing, and you're not afraid of anything." And I'm like, "Well, there are lonely nights." And he goes, "Well, you got to stick to your guns, And sometimes I've had and I won't do something if I can't defend it. I did a joke about the football players kneeling for the national anthem, and it's like, well, they feel they're kneeling for oppression. I go, they're making millions of dollars a year, and I go, the only time you feel that they're oppressed is when there's no Cristal in the club, right? So I would do that joke. Now, in the meet and greet, people would come up to me and go, "What, why do you feel bad about that? Why do you do that joke? That's kind of insulting. Why do you do?" I go, "You know why I do that joke?" I go, "Yeah, there isn't dignity in no country. There has been. But for the minute and a half that song plays, it shows that we have the freedom to change any indignity that we have. Try that in China. Try that in Venezuela. Yeah, there has been a lot of indignity and racism in this country. I'm not going to shy away from it, but that song signals the rights that we have to change that. And when you're kneeling, you're going against that rights. And a lot of times people go, "Oh, okay, all right." So I just can't go out there and say things to say things. If I'm going to say something that I feel might be feedback, I double check myself that I've got something to back it up with, because I
Yeah.
have to. I got to defend myself, especially in these times.
Right. Yeah. Because like you said, after the show, people are going to ask you or confront you, or and why did you say this, or why did you decide to do that? And it's good to
Yeah,
have, not just, oh, I thought it was funny. No, here's why. Here's up. Here's all my,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and I've had to do it. I've had to sit
yeah.
there and I've had to defend what I mean. But you know what? When people go, "Oh, you're a racist," and they're like, "Yeah, you kind of got a point." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah,"
That's the thing.
So
It's so easy to dismiss people for, name a word, racist, bigot, what have you. It's so easy to just dismiss these people, xenophobes or whatever, uh, for having an opinion, that's
yeah,
not popular. God forbid you don't agree with the herd. You know what I'm saying? And then you could get easily blacklisted.
I've had two instances at a mic and in a show in Pennsylvania where I was on stage and I'm doing my act, and it's like I go, look, I'm out of step with things. I go, he came out with the world's first transgender doll. We're going from like GI Joe to GI don't know very quickly.
Right.
And then I do a joke where you get when you go to the doctor's office and they have the clipboard and they have the form and they're asking me what was my gender assigned at birth. So I do a whole thing on that. There was a girl that was running a show in Pennsylvania that cut me short in my set, that didn't like what I said and blah blah blah. And I had a big, humongous argument with her. We had it out. I yelled at her, this and that, and we wound up dating for 3 months. So I won in the end, but still,
That's
and I
the
used to,
best.
yeah,
Oh,
I was, and then there was another one at a mic over in St. James, who she cut me off. She grabbed the mic. She was belligerent, and I posted it on Long Island Comedy, and then I got a post from the guy that was actually booking that and books a whole lot of stuff. And he goes, "Could you please take that down?" And I go, "I didn't know it was you." Blah blah blah. And I wound up writing with her, and she didn't like what I said and she went up to me and took the mic away while I was on stage. She was emceeing this mic,
wow. Wow.
and I told her, I go, "Listen to me." I go, "The whole idea of comedy is to rebut something. If you didn't like what I said, when it's your turn when it's your turn to get back up there, rip me to shreds. I will love it. That's the essence of comedy.
Yeah.
But don't run up there and grab the mic out of my hand."
That's what that's what some groups like to do. They want to silence anybody with an opposite opinion. They want to silence you, whether it's take the microphone down, discourage you to speak, bully you to remain silent, and all of that. And that's what I don't like. I like freedom of speech, freedom of expression. I've sit through other comedians where I don't agree with their ideology, if they're making fun of certain things or whatever, or you know, I sit through it with a smile on my face, find the humor in it if it's funny. And but when it's the other side that I want to listen to, you can't. I don't like that they shut it down, and we see it, with Jim Florentine and Joe
Yeah,
Gomez and Dave Smith and all.
and yeah, and it's not a freedom of speech issue. They're just trying to shut it down because they don't like it. I think it's going to get pushback. Now, I'll even add something to the equation. I was doing a show Friday night, and I'm chatting with some of the guys there, and there was a room, I think in Jersey, that he has to take out an insurance policy in case he gets sued if somebody feels that they got triggered by something a
Oh,
comic said.
yeah,
Extra insurance. And I don't know if it's true or not, but God, I hope it's not, because we're watching the freedom of speech being taken away at every turn. And the people that are doing this, in my opinion, are the enemy within. And it's got to be stopped. There's pushback. And what I've always said is that when people like comics, we're in the entertainment business. You have your show. I'm on now. I have my show tomorrow night. We stand ups and everything like that. If we come under pressure, well, we're performers, we're entertainers, so you guys, that's the cross you have to bear. But let me tell you something. If somebody says something by the copy machine at work, or in the lunchroom, or something overheard and they get up to HR, and it gets to be prevalent a lot, you're going to start to see a lot of pushback.
right, yeah, and I think we're seeing, pushback within the comedy community to some degree. Right, left, whatever stance you're on. If you're not allowed to say certain things, like Judy Gold wrote a whole book about it, and she's as left as it gets, and
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm reading a book now by Cliff Nestoroff,
Mm-hmm.
called "Outrageous: A History of Culture Wars" or whatever in comedy, and it seems like this type of stuff has been has been going on since like the beginning of comedy. Like
Hmm.
there's been censorship, and they've been trying to silence us since like the early 1900s, since vaudeville.
Oh yeah.
If they
Oh
didn't agree,
yeah.
and some of it, you could say, okay, well, for today's standards, you're like, yeah, of course you can't say that. But the point is that like guys like Fatty Arbuckle, probably the first canceled. He was a, Fatty was a silent movie star,
Yeah.
comedian. He was in a major scandal, probably the first canceled comedian ever. I mean, and he was found innocent. He didn't kill this woman and all this.
It was a 16-year-old girl that was over a party. I don't have that story, but it was a 16-year-old girl. I think it was over a party that he was having, and the girl unfortunately passed away of something, and they were pinning it on him. And then it got out, and then I think that was the end of his career.
Yeah, because they said that the 16-year-old girl died from him crushing her while he's having sex with her, which was
Yeah,
all lies. It was all made up, and he was found innocent. Tried to have a comeback, and nobody would book him anymore. And like they wouldn't show his movies anywhere,
yeah,
and his whole movie career was shut down. But the point is that we've seen this, history repeating itself over and over and over again. Lenny Bruce and George Carlin, and so on and so forth. So I'm hoping that the comedians stay strong and we can get through this. Um, because when you start to see clubs canceling shows because they don't like certain comedians who have a following coming to their club, that's when flags start going up.
yeah. And especially the comedians like those guys who are very good, and they're great. And a lot of these woke comics are god awful. And it's like it's usually like these guys that you see on TikTok that have maybe 15 minutes that have a following, and
Right.
they're being the voice where we don't like what they say. Well, you know what? It's gonna eventually it's gonna turn on you, where somebody's not gonna like what you say, and it's going and it's the pendulum's going to swing the other way. So and until the woke comics start to get pushed back, um, is when you're going to start to see this stop. And a lot, you know what? And a lot of people that are liberals are really getting pushing back. I mean, Bill Maher is one who you watch him and go, he's been a liberal. I mean, when he is looking at culture and seeing what's going on and calling them out, it's a major statement to see where the state of affairs are.
That's what's great about comedians is they got the bullshit meter all the way turned up. So even Bill Maher, who's obviously a left leaning guy his whole career, definitely anti-Trump dude, but he is calling out the bullshit.
Yeah,
And he gets a lot of pushback for it. They try to cancel him for it.
yeah,
You see the same thing with Joe Rogan was a liberal guy, and
yeah.
what's his name, with the long hair, uh I can't think of Russell Brand is
Right, right, right.
another kind of liberal comic, who now is just calling out, you know, all of this because it's the bullshit meter, man. And that's why I always say this: comedians are so important to all of our history, and they're important now.
Well, I've always said that a comedian's job is to push away the curtains where the bullshit's behind. But you're always going to get in trouble for that because somebody had to hang the curtains. So
It's great. Yeah, I
yeah,
love that.
so but you know what? That's the job. That's the job. That's the way I've always looked. I've been a fan of Carlin, and Cheech and Chong, and those are my influence. And I've always been pulling away the curtains on
Right on.
stuff, and I just can't go up there and do milk toasty stuff. That's not me. I can't write from the heart. I'm still trying to work on this joke now. It's still because I got to figure out how it would go. It's like you have these people that just don't think. It's like if you see people that go, well, why aren't you going to vote for this certain party? Well, they're not for gun control, and they're killing our children, and guns have to stop. They're killing our children. So what else are you for? Abortion rights. So let me get this straight. You want first crack at right? You want first crack at them. And so I,
That's a great punchline. Oh, so you guys want the first crack at him? I got.
I haven't, and and you know me for years. I don't have the balls to do it yet. It's on paper. I figured it out. And I was going to do it at a mic. I'm headlining for the next couple of nights. I might do it there. But you know what? It's like, if I do, where do I put it? Because what the problem is if I'm doing 45 minutes, okay, and I put it in 20, and that joke doesn't go, I got a long 25 minutes.
Yeah, you got to bring them back. Yeah.
So I'm trying. I'm going to try to get out to the mics next week and do the joke there.
Yeah.
And you know what the mics is? If the guy looking at his phone goes, hey,
Right. Yeah. That's a keeper. Yeah.
It goes in, So, but still, I want to go there. But the thing about it is, with that joke, I've got to make darn well certain that I got my point. I've got my point. I've got my punch. At the meet and greet, how dare you do a joke like that? No. Here's why. Let's discuss. So
right, yeah. That's the shame, is that you have to always be prepared to defend your jokes. You know what I mean? If it's especially if it's social commentary, but that one makes a lot of sense, because it points out the hypocrisy of how some people believe and see the world. They're for this, but then they're against this. But it's like it's almost like, when people are like gays are defending the Palestine or something, because they're like, do you know what these Palestinians think of the gay people? Do you know what they'll do to you?
They'll literally throw you off a roof.
Right.
And then and the whole thing with the Palestinian protests is on my show Davinson with Davin. Davin and I have been arguing about racist against Jews. And he goes, well, there's a growing problem with racism in the country. I go, against Jews, I don't see it. Now, I've said that in a while. And I go, and you know why? I go, because it's the FBI probably trumping up, no pun intended, data from other groups trying to meet a narrative of a political party. And that's been my argument for 2 years, until October 7th came around. And now you see all these protests. So I've talked to Davin and on the show, and I've said, I go, it is a problem, but it's not the usual suspects. And I go, it's college kids, it's professors. And he actually admitted, because he's got his daughters going to college in the fall. And he actually admitted to me, he goes, you know what? I'm a little nervous. I'm sending it, I have to send her off to school. I'm a little nervous for her, the way things have been on college campuses. And I go, yeah. And I go, anti-Semitism is rearing its ugly head from places that you didn't think it would be. And it's very concerning. In my opinion, I think that these professors are brainwashing these kids. That they don't, that's I don't want to get too political, but that's my 2 cents.
No, I totally see that as well, as I think most people who have common sense see that. And it's scary, because we've these same kids in these colleges that if they don't like what you say or like what you stand for, they're like, oh, you're just like Hitler, you're worse than Hitler. Meanwhile, they're spouting anti-Jewish rhetoric.
Yeah, if you have an argument against things like you're a bigot, you're a racist, no, I'm laying out these facts. You don't want to address them, and it's easy to say all this stuff than debate the point about it.
Yeah.
And and sometimes people don't want to hear it. Sometimes there are people that I like. Now, Harry Friedman. Harry Friedman is one, very liberal. Yes. His goal in life is to make me liberal. But I love Harry, because Harry and I will sit and we'll discuss policy, have a wonderful conversation about it. He'll go on stage and tease me. I love it, because it's the spirit of stand-up to point out an opinion, and that's and that's enjoyable. That's two comics with different opinions having a good debate, bringing up points, counterpoints, ribbing each other on stage. And I wish it was just like that all the time, but it's not, because there are guys that want to be so pointed in their opinion and their side of the aisle. And that's where we become. I mean, you listen to both sides of the aisle talk, and it's always about our side, our side. How about everybody's side?
Right. How
You
about
know,
the greater good for the country? And let's we could all agree on things. We could all meet in the middle. I think most people, most Americans are in the middle. Maybe you'll lean a little right, maybe this one leans a little left, but I think we're all mainly here. It's the people we're seeing on TV and in the media that are on each like really on the other side of the tipping scale. And those are the ones that are driving the ships, so to speak, and then we all rally around this one or rally around that one.
yeah,
But
yeah.
that's why, if you ever talk to somebody, not all of them, I've talked to a few one-on-one that are just nuts, but if you talk to any most people one-on-one, there's always a commonality and you could have a normal conversation like with Harry Friedman or somebody like that.
Yeah, but the funny thing is that you listen to the politicians on the right and the left talk and discuss talking points. I have not heard anybody come out and say, you know what, we really need to be concerned about. How come a bag of groceries that cost $35 3 years ago is now almost $60?
Yeah.
You go to the supermarket, almost everything, a soda, a 12 pack of Coke, $12. Chicken is $14. Everything, it's a bloody fortune. And is anybody addressing the concerns about that? And oh, well, it's the war in the Ukraine and this and that and the other thing. Well, what about the cost of diesel fuel? How is it? What the cost of the feed? The cost of processing, the cost of plastics because of oil that it's made. Nobody sits there and discusses that because it's not an easy solution, and everybody wants to just go harump. But you don't hear anybody on the right nor the left discussing that, and it's a tangible thing. Tangible thing. I was there yesterday. I know when you went, probably going tomorrow. But
Yeah, it's something that affects us all. We're all
yeah,
experiencing it. Yeah.
yeah.
And there's no denying it.
Nobody's
Yeah.
talking about it. No,
Right.
I don't hear anybody talking about it, and that's a key thing. That's a key pocketbook thing.
Yeah. It's
So
for sure. And then, and there's a lot of gaslighting and all this other stuff. It's I just don't know if and when it's ever going to end. It just feels like we're just constantly getting led with the carrot and the stick and just, hey, yeah, bring you this way, bring you that way, you
you
know.
know, you know what the saddest part is. What it's going to take another national tragedy like 9/11 to get us rounded back up again. I hate to say it, sounds despicable to say, but I think we are so far entrenched in our camps that nobody wants to give an inch. And I think it's going to take something where we're going to go, holy cow, somebody on this planet, another entity on this planet wants to kill us. We got to regroup and we got to fight them off. And I think that's what, it's going to take a 9/11, a World War II thing, a Pearl Harbor thing for us to get back as us, fighting as us. Sorry to say, but, it's the
Maybe
way
a
it is.
space invasion.
Yeah. Well, that'll get the whole world together.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We are
How tricky
seeing,
is that?
yeah, exactly. But we are seeing some validations happening in comedy, right? Like Shane Gillis getting on SNL. I find a little redemption there.
Yeah. Now, what are your thoughts on that? I'm a Shane Gillis fan. My buddy worked with Shane on the road for a little bit, and he goes, he's not that good. He's not. All right, all right. So then I was at Governor's one night, and I watched that. Fantastic, phenomenal. Now we all know what happened, why he wasn't on the show, which was a nonsense move, which really stunk. He was on, and his monologue, he looked nervous, and I don't know if he was nervous that there was a lot of stress being on there, and you have all the woke people looking at them, and he felt nervous there because his material is kind of edgy, which I'm like, you know what? Go for broke. You're on this edgy show. Do what you got to do, because Saturday Night Live is horrible. And the show all the play. I mean, they spent over 5 minutes showing all the players that are on the show because everybody has to be included in there, and the show stinks. It's awful.
It
You
has
know,
gone
and it,
downhill.
and the amazing thing is, we all know people that have been on the show and written on the show, and they're all fighting to get their bits on there, and there's only a certain amount of time, and you watch them just beat a bit to death, which is god awful, when they could have just made it short and funny and throw another two bits into the show.
Yeah, that's the thing. They always go a little long, and which
Yeah.
which kills it, like you said. But I think with Shane, to me, I was more glad that they had to bring him on hat in hand and say, okay, we were wrong, or whatever. Here you go. Here's your chance. I don't know what kind of deals were made or whatever, how that happened, but to me, I think it was like they would. It was a do good. Like let's just get, let's just give this guy this so we could clear the slate and just, but to your point about his opening monologue, I was hoping for more. I was hoping he was going to go for it, like, but
I
I
was
think
I
he,
was too.
yeah,
And the thing about it, he looked a little nervous, felt a little like not contrite. That's not a good word. A little intimidated.
yeah,
And the thing about it is, he is a guy that speaks his mind, has great stuff. So you think about the monologues when Carlin would come out, or Pryor would come out, or guys of that ilk would come out, where here's a guy that's going to speak his mind, going to be edgy, it's going to be brilliant, and it's part of the hip vibe that Saturday Night Live had. And I'm going back when we were kids back then, but to see somebody in that genre come out and feel like he's contrived, that he can't really say what he wants in the spirit of comedy, and then have these sketches after him that are so milk toast and stink. It just shows you where Saturday Night Live is and where the state of comedy is right now.
yeah, yeah, and like I don't know if Shane made some kind of handshake deal with them and said, okay, I will not go crazy. I know it's a live show. I'm just gonna play by the rule book here. So I feel like he played by the rules. He stayed within the guidelines. He didn't go off the rails. He didn't, you know, say anything. And hey, like who knows what he could have said to,
Yeah,
I don't know how he could have improved it because, like to your point, Shane Gillis is a great stand-up comic.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I wish he would have found it within him to just do, just I don't know, just a little punch harder, I guess.
It was like, it's like when you go to adopt a dog and you go to the kennel, and there's a Rottweiler in there and he's trying to be, you can pet him, see he's friendly and he likes children, and but yeah,
That's a great way to
and it's
put
like,
it.
for the love of God, don't maul anybody while we're here with these kids. That's what it. That's what I felt like. And like I said, I mean, I felt he was a little bit handcuffed, and I think he looked a little out of sorts. And like I said, I'm not damning him. I'm a very big fan of his.
Yeah, he's
I think
great.
he's great. But it was the situation he was put in. I think I think he has a deal with a streaming service. So that might have been there too.
Yeah,
Where the agent is, look, you're at a point right now where you did have the setback on Saturday Night Live. You're at a point right now where you could ride on that. We have a deal with you, and look, I'm, me, I dance. I'll dance.
yeah.
I'm sure you would. We all work very hard in this business, man. It's like, I'll dance, whatever you
Right.
need.
And I think he's more successful now, like to this day, than he would have been had he got on the show and been a cast member. I think he would have just fell just like all the other. I can't name any of the
Right.
recent cast
And
members.
And you want to know something? And the reason he is, and this is a very key thing with where everything is now in comedy, it's going to concern Anthony. Why Howard Stern isn't Howard Stern anymore? Dave Chappelle, Florentine, the Legion of Skanks, guys like that, because they're staying true. They're staying true. They're not backing down. And comedy right now, is, to me, is staying true, not backing down, not standing away. And those are the guys that gain the accolades, go to battle against where the culture is now, and stand their ground. And those are the guys that are trying to save comedy for the rest of us. Those guys that go up there and they're not backing down. They're speaking their mind. They're intelligent. They have a point. They're controversial. And when the woke try to shut them down, they have such a good point that it's tough to shut them down, and it
Right.
backfires on all the woke. I'm guaranteed the whole thing with Florentine and Lewis and the other guys
Kurt
is going to have,
Metzer. Yeah.
yeah, a big backlash on that club. That was a big mistake on that club, because now all they know is that they're against freedom of speech. And that's going to hurt them. And believe me, those woke acts that are going in are probably god awful. and audiences are going to go in, see these acts that are friendly and milk, and they're never coming back again.
Right, exactly. And it's I heard that club was right in the middle of in Seattle. It's right in the middle of Chaz. That remember
Yeah.
that neighborhood?
Yes.
So it's in
Yes.
the middle of Crazy Town. So
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what? If it's all ticket sales. It's all ticket sales. So well, we don't like. Well, you want to know something? We're filling. We're filling the club, and there are fans that want to see them, that have the right to see them, and who are we to tell them that they can't? Or who are you to say that we can't have these acts? Then
right,
don't go. Don't like the show. You know what? If you want to protest, make a stupid sign, hang out, say, "Oh, they're me," whatever. But don't shut the show down. That's
yeah.
censorship.
Yeah, and it's just a bad look, like you said, and to Florentine's point too, he's like, hey, we all have our own followings. We were going to bring an audience, and we weren't going to offend anybody. The only people coming to my shows are people that know who I am, and you know what I mean, and
Yeah.
are part of my fan base. He's like, I don't understand who would have been offended, this and that, and yeah, it's just I'm hoping that these guys are this club is an example for other clubs of what not to do. I hope that they get enough negative press and things go wrong for them. So this way other clubs don't ever follow suit because I don't think any club should ever cancel an act regardless of their political or color or
Yeah.
creed or
And you know what? You know who stands by that, and it's really good, is James Dolce.
yes,
Like
yeah, he's
when they had Louis C.K. In fact, well, we're going to protest. We're gonna, do what you want. Do what you want. There's a lot of people want to come see him. My place is going to be filled. Make a sign. Go outside. What do you want to do? Knock yourself out. But I'm not. I want. He wants to perform. He's going to perform here because he's funny. He's good, and he brings people. And James, once again, James has always stood by that.
James has been a great proponent for comedy and not only for the Long Island team but comedy as a whole. And
Yeah.
yeah, to your point, he was one of the first ones that had Louis C.K. back after all that went down with Louis C.K. I think that was one of his. I think he did the Comedy Cellar and then he did the Governors. Then
Well, when
then
he did Governors on a cold December snowy night. Now they were having him in the and what it was just emails. Don't advertise on email. Louis C.K. is going to be here. I think it was a Sunday night. Okay, it was a cold snowy night at Governors. Now, and in the giggle room, we were having a birthday party for Tim Gage. and
nice.
I'm running late. I ran late because I do Santa Claus during the season, so I was coming back from Jersey, had to change and get down to the club. You couldn't get near that club. It was a triple line going in there. And the guy that's working the door doesn't really know me. I guess, Ozzy and those guys before they're in the club. So I went home because I'm going to have to cut the line on a snowy, explaining that I'm not here to see Louis C.K. I want to wish Gage a happy birthday, and I'm going to get bludgeoned to death. I went home. I'm 11th. I live in Middle Island. I drove back home.
That's
So
great,
that's
man.
the power of somebody, as Louis C.K. That, oh well, he's this and that, yeah, but he's still relevant, he's still brilliant, and he still can draw a crowd. And the woke contingent ain't gonna stop him.
Yep. And he's out there, he's doing his own stuff. He's all self-produced. He kind of paved the way for so many people to self-produce their own shows now.
Yeah,
But he ended up winning what he win an Emmy, a Grammy? What did he win? I think he won a Grammy award last year for
right.
album that he
Good.
self-produced, I believe, and all of that stuff. So yeah, so he got some redemption too off of his cancels, him being canceled. So we're seeing it ebb and flow, you know, um, with comedians. Just had what was it? Cat Williams came out swinging on calling people out and the
Yeah, I
Illuminati.
gotta ask you a question on that. I heard about that, but I was trying to find what did he exactly do?
Cat Williams. So he was
Yeah.
interviewed on Club Shay Shay, which is Shannon Sharp has a
Mhm.
podcast. And
Right.
on that podcast, he basically called out a lot of the industry. And he talked about a lot of stuff. He talked about, Steve Harvey stealing his jokes and this and that. Like
Mhm.
he just threw a lot of comics under the bus. But the biggest takeaway I would say is he was talking about how they put black men in a dress, and it's like a rite of passage. It's a humiliation ritual and the Illuminati
Mhm.
and all this stuff. And he kind of went deep into that stuff, and he just kind of exposed a lot of taboos, I guess, that
Mhm.
aren't mainly spoken of. But he did talk about, you know, woke stuff, and he was definitely kind of anti-woke rhetoric. So, I think it's guys like him that are frontlining it and just kind of and are uncancelable. You can't cancel Cat Williams.
Can't you can't and staying true once again, like I was saying, staying true. He's staying true. He's not bowing down. And
Yeah,
comedy has always been staying true. It's the essence of it, and what's always made it great was staying true and fighting whatever part of the culture that wants to shut you down, fighting it. So and that's the thing, and they're trying to take it away. um, they're close to taking it away, but I think the pendulum is starting to swing the other way, because I think people are really going to shows that have woke comedians and they stink on ice.
yeah, they're bad.
And it's like I said, an example, and I don't know if you're a fan. I think Trevor Noah is absolutely unlistenable,
Yeah,
absolutely unlistenable.
yeah,
And
he's
he's a woke comic, and it's I especially when he used to do the promos for the Daily Show. It's supposed to be fun, and I'm listening to this, and it's like it was about as funny as when you're at the restaurant and the guy reads the specials. It really is.
how you could tell how bad he is now that Jon Stewart's back and you see Jon Stewart do it and you're like, oh shit, that's how it's done. Even
This
though
is
I
how
don't,
it's done.
yeah, yeah.
How
Jon
it's done.
Stewart, say what you want, you're like he's left guy, whatever. I don't agree with a lot of his politics, but he's funny as
I'm
hell.
I'm the I'm the
Yeah,
same way. Like, I don't agree with some things that he says, but it's like I never saw it that way, and damn, that's funny. you know,
exactly. When you compare that to Trevor Noah, then you see the difference, and you're like, wow, this is a guy that's doing it right. This is a guy that's doing it lame.
yeah.
Simple as
And
that, you know.
and even Jon Stewart is taking his heat from the woke, because he's going after Biden
Yeah,
on some things, and he's taking heat, and he is staying true and saying, no, 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 I'm talking about both sides, and
right.
both sides need to be talked about. Not that I have an agenda about it, but it's so ridiculous as a comic. I just can't sit here and not go after it.
Right, exactly. Exactly. And that's the thing, like we've been saying, I think that the thread throughout this whole interview has been that comedians all have the one thing in common is the bullshit meter. And if they're true to themselves and true to the bullshit, we're all finding common ground, whether it's
Yeah,
Bill Maher, or who would be who or like Greg Gutfeld, let's just say, because they're kind of the same person, just two different sides.
right,
They're both these
right,
kind of swarmy
right,
kind of
right, right.
and if they are agreeing on the bullshit, then it's got to be bullshit.
Yeah, because it's affecting freedom of speech. And even if you're on the left, you're seeing how it's affecting freedom of speech. Where if you say anything to the contrary, they're coming after you. It's like, you know what? This has got to stop. And I'm going to say anything. And when the woke come in, and like in the case of John, I'm a liberal. I'm a with causes. And you're coming after me. No, I'm going after you, because you want to know something. You're killing the narrative of our party. If you're a liberal, a democratic liberal, you're killing the narrative. And a lot of people, a lot of groups have a problem where they're going and their actions are killing their narrative. You don't even know it, but it's
Right.
killing the narrative. And I don't even go into the groups, but also is the left, the far left Democrats, where their actions are just killing the narrative. You know,
That's a perfect example of that for me is PETA, right? So like PETA has done so many great things for animals, like like let's say animal cruelty towards elephants in the circus or what have you, or they treat horses better, the way they take care of dogs and cats in the dog pounds, right? They do a lot of positive things, but then the way their actions are, they go to McDonald's all bloodied up and they do these big crazy shit, and that's when they lose me. So I'm like, why'd you have to do all this crazy shit? You had me. I'm all about the animals being saved and this and that, but you ruin it with your nutty actions.
and also, yeah, and also with the climate change people. They want to go after farms and get rid of cattle and sheep because their gases, their gas emissions are bad for the environment. They've been around forever, before the car, before electricity, before anything. They were, well, and you can't say, well, there weren't that many. No, there was just as many.
Yeah.
Why? And it wasn't a problem then. Why is it a problem now? So you could drive up, you could ruin farms, you could drive up the price of meat for this stupid agenda. It doesn't make sense. Well, it's bad for the ozone, but no, they've been here forever. It wasn't. You know what? I guarantee in 1735 somebody was walking around. We got to do something about these animals farting. No, it's always been there. You know, they're ruining the ozone. No, they weren't.
Exactly. Exactly. We're in crazy times, man, and it's an election year, and it's just going to get crazier as we go. Until then, till November. From now to November, who knows what the heck's going to happen?
I used to say in our show, because we were talking about the election, and we were talking about last year, the spring going into July, and and Davin is asking me, well, what do you think about the election? And I go, I don't know. But asking me in January, because stuff is going to get really real in January, and I'll have a better idea. So he goes, we're in January. What do you think? I don't know. I don't know.
It's going to get.
Hold on, kids.
The closer we get, it's going to get steamy. We'll see what happens, but thanks so much, man. You never disappoint. You're the best. Tell everybody where they can find you and follow you and all that good stuff.
You go to Joe Currie Nation on Facebook, Joe Currie Comedy Rock on not Instagram. What's the other thing?
Twitter.
Not Twitter. It's Joe Currie Plankfoot on Twitter, and on what's the other platform?
There's Instagram, Twitter, TikTok.
Instagram. Yeah, I'm on Instagram. Joe Currie Comedy Rock on Instagram. Check me on out. I'm getting the website redone. I lost my domain. I gotta get my domain back. But Joe Currie, best place to follow me, Joe Currie Nation on Facebook. I have all my shows and gigs. Check out my podcast, Davin's Den. We're live every Tuesday, 7 o'clock to 9:30. Go to DAVinComedy.com, click Davin's Den. You are there. Also, you see us live on Facebook.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joe. You're the best, buddy.
Thank you, pal. It was a pleasure. I had a great time.
Right on.
Take care, man. Be well. Take care.
You too.